All right, thank you for jumping on. I'm gonna give it one more minute here. Then I'm gonna get started with this last training for the week that covers our licensing requirements. Okay. All right, thank you everybody for jumping on today. I know we've gone through three or four, I think three. This is our third training that we've been doing this week. I appreciate everybody who's on here. This is part of our licensing requirements that we need to meet to get these trainings done. This today will be our last training. It's going to be about SIR reporting, special incident reporting, and what constitutes an SIR. And not just what constitutes an SIR, but what do we do with that information? What are we supposed to do? Who's supposed to write the report? How do we write the report, and who do we send it to? Okay. So what I want to do, I want to start off this training. There's two videos I want us to watch. They're pretty quick. They're not that bad. The first one is going to identify what special incidents are. And then the second video is actually a video that speaks directly to the members of our community and talks to them about abuse and bullying and how have they been abused and bullied and how did that make them feel and what do we think should be done about it. And I really like that video because it comes directly from our consumers that we support. And it's very, very important that you all understand we are their care providers and protectors. And without us, there's nobody else on the front lines that's going to advocate for them. So even if advocating for them makes you unpopular and not cool with the rest of your staff, I can guarantee that those staff who don't speak up and say anything are not going to last long in the home. They're not going to last long in this industry or this facility because if they're not willing to speak up and say something and to report abuse, then they're not willing to do the same things for themselves, you know, that they should be doing for our people that we serve. Okay. So let's get into this. I'm going to share my screen and we are going to go for, let me see, we're going to go for our first round of videos. I'm going to unplug here so that you guys can hear the video. Okay, let's watch this first video.
So, what was abuse? So, abuse can take many forms. Physical abuse, verbal abuse, neglect, emotional or psychological abuse, and financial exploitation. Look at each one a little bit closer. Physical abuse. Physical abuse can be someone punching or hitting you, someone throwing objects at you, pushing or shoving you, or using physical restraints. Sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is being forced into sexual activity or touched inappropriately. Neglect is not providing the adequate food, clothing, or the medical care an individual needs. Emotional or psychological abuse can be insults, threats, bullying, or isolation. Lastly, financial exploitation. This can be someone you know or don't know stealing or misusing your assets. This is why it's important to know your rights. You have the right to equal treatment, safety, privacy, choices, being treated with dignity and respect, developing relationships, community inclusion, independent living, employment, education, healthcare, and advocating for one's rights. If you are experiencing abuse or know someone that is experiencing abuse, report it to your direct support professional or someone you trust. Please call a local law enforcement agency or Adult Protective Services. For more information on abuse prevention and other topics, please visit ddshealthtoolkit.org.
All right. And we're going to watch our next video here, and please pay close attention to what the residents in the video are saying, how it makes them feel when nobody else would advocate for them.
What is a bully? A bully is someone. A bully is somebody who bothers the other person or intimidates them in any way.
Someone being mean to you. Have you ever been bullied?
Yes.
What happened?
I was sitting in a class and somebody stuck something in my hair.
Where did it happen?
Cool.
Who did it?
One of my classmates.
What did you do?
I had a decision because I was in class.
How did it make you feel?
Pretty bad. Have you ever been bullied? Yeah. What happened? Two kids knocked me down on walking down the stairs and they knocked me down the stairs. And then I ended up crying. Were you at school? Or out at community school? Who did it? High school kids. So it was classmates. Yeah. What did you do? Fight back? Walk away, yell at them, ask them to stop. Ask them to stop and walk away. Good idea. How did you feel? Sad, angry, alone, scared? Sad and scared. Have you ever been bullied?
Yeah, people tease me and push me around.
What happened first? Then what happened next?
Crying and then I get mad.
Where it happened?
School. A kid.
What did you do?
I just walked away from the teacher.
How did it make you feel?
Upset and sad.
I opened up my door one morning and found someone kept all over my trees. And later on I went to took it out and cleaned it up. It was a mess. I was very frustrated.
Some kids, if us kids that the bus driver calling, I mean, he, the bus driver, got a kid, and that's why me and Andy's gonna take the bus tomorrow. Cause every time they won't let him sit on the seat, every time you get, you get mad about it, they laugh about it, and then the bus driver gets mad. You laugh about it, and they won't let you sit down, and then when the bus driver gets mad, he doesn't let him stop somewhere and lets him out. And read and that.
My staff, when I was at work, my job contract me to do something, and my coworker. Otherwise, I would have called it down. Do not get into a fight with the bully, so they make the situation look bad or worse. Do not hit in the wrong place for the bullies are. Do not ignore what happened. Don't believe what the bully says. Walk or run away before you tries to hurt you. Get some help. Tell a trusted adult. Make a plan what to do if it happens again.
Okay. Let me close these. Okay, some of the videos there that describe a little bit about bullying and how it affects the individuals that we serve. The one resident that was in that video said it plain and clear. You're supposed to tell a trusted adult. Who do you guys think the trusted adults are? That's us in the home. We're the trusted adults. We cannot write off fabrication as a means of behavior when something has occurred. Because I'll tell you what, I'd rather investigate 1,000 cases that are unsubstantiated than fail to investigate the one that's substantiated. Okay, so whenever there's something that occurs, we have to do our due diligence in reporting. All right. Okay, so what are some of the things that we have to do a special incident report for? Well, we're going to go down the list. One of those is the death of a resident, right? When a resident passes away in the facility, there's certain protocols and processes we have to follow. Okay, aggressive acts against self or others. If they're being bullied by staff, if they're being bullied by other residents in the home, and it's a consistent bullying, we got to report that. That's a special incident report. Okay. For one, you should never talk to the residents in a manner that's disrespectful. Okay. Two, if you can't stand the noise, then transfer to another house. All right. If you can't stand the environment, if you think it's too rough, transfer somewhere else. You could be used somewhere else. But never, ever, ever tell them to shut up. Tell them to stop. Never make comments that say, man, you're too loud. Like, damn, go sit outside for a little bit because you're pissing me off right now. We should never tell the residents anything like that. And then in the homes, you have residents that are highly verbal that can come back to you and say, hey, I heard staff so-and-so say this to one of the residents and it made me uncomfortable and I don't feel safe around that resident anymore. About 3 months ago, I was involved in an investigation here at the Shaman home, where there was a staff member who committed some crazy acts, and one of your residents did not feel safe or comfortable around that staff member and made that very vocal several times to myself. Okay, that staff member is no longer here at the home. Due diligence was done, reporting was done, and we had to change the environment. Okay. Suspected abuse, neglect, or exploitation. These are things we also have to do incident reports for. Exploitation is not just sexual exploitation. I had a home down in Southern California where on the weekends, one of the residents, he would go on home visits. And that resident was really into magic. He really loved to do magic tricks with cards and with money. And he was actually pretty good at it. He would fool a lot of the staff and a lot of the other clients in the home. He loved magic. That was his thing. He was about 22, 23 years old. So on the weekends, he would go on home visits. Everything appeared to be cool. Well, one weekend, another staff member from another home just happened to be down at the Santa Monica Pier on their own time outside of work. Who do you think they saw down on the Santa Monica Pier doing magic tricks for money? It was the resident that was on a home visit from his facility. So right away, unbeknownst to that family and unbeknownst to the house, that resident, the staff member ended up calling their administrator, who ended up calling the administrator of the home that resident was from, to find out why this guy was on the Santa Monica Pier doing magic tricks for money. Okay, that's a form of exploitation. We found out later that mom was putting him out there on the street to make money for herself. So all that money he would make from doing his magic, mom would give him like $5. He would always come back to the facility with like $5. But we found out he would make $200-300 that entire weekend. Definitely exploitation that we had to report. Excuse me. Serious injury. What are some types of serious injuries that we need to do special incident reports for? That's broken limbs, right? Can you guys think of any other types of serious injury?
Like a cut or anything that would require staples or an excessive amount of blood, anything you can't handle with a Band-Aid.
Yep. Cuts, lacerations. Don't just take it lightly that it's a laceration, so we could just put a Band-Aid on it, it'll be fine. I had to do an investigation at a home in Bakersfield, not Bakersfield, in Apple Valley, where one of the residents stabbed another resident in the back twice with the kitchen knife. The administrator told me that they were just minor cuts. When I did the investigation and actually saw and took pictures of the wounds, it was about a 2-inch penetration with an 1.5 inch laceration on the skin. That's not minor. That's not something that's minor. And that administrator tried to sweep it under the rug like this was behavior and this just happens. No, your client got stabbed in the home because of lack of supervision. Okay, so don't become that staff. Properly report things and put the measures in place that we have to have in place to be able to avoid these things from happening. Okay, unplanned hospitalizations, medical appointments, or doctor or dentist appointments. These are all special incident reporting as well. When we send somebody to the hospital and they have to stay for an unplanned visit, which is more than a 24-hour period, we have to report that to licensing. That's an incident report. Okay, it's not just a follow-up at the urgent care of the ER. That's an admission to the hospital. Anytime somebody's admitted to the hospital, we have to do an incident report. Okay, anytime they have a dental injury or a dental surgery, that's another one. I've seen them get punched in the face by each other just boxing in the living room, and then one of their teeth falls out. You got to report that. Okay, verbal threats or aggression. Why is it important to report verbal threats and aggression? Why do you think that would be important?
Just keeping track of it, and you don't want to let it get escalated. So if somebody's already aware that somebody's making verbal threats, it puts more eyes on the situation, I think.
Yeah, you definitely want to be the staff that shuts that down, because we can't be doing that with our residents, and the residents can't be doing that to each other. Okay, you shouldn't have a hostile environment where somebody doesn't feel safe to live, and we have to encourage them to create an environment that's safe for them at all times. Okay, so we have to shut down those verbal threats or aggression. If you go on YouTube and you just type in group home abuse, you guys will see endless amounts of videos of actual DSPs. Okay, they may be called something else in other states, but actual caregivers who are seen on video abusing residents in homes. Okay, I have a family member who used to be at a home in Riverside, and I found out she was getting sexually abused in that home. I drove down there from Ventura County to move her out of that home, shut that home down in 6 hours. called the police, called the sheriffs, made sure I got whoever I needed to get there to get everybody out of that house. Because nobody should have to suffer that type of abuse because they fail to say no, or they don't have the ability to say no. Okay, so it's your responsibility, it's your job as a DSP to provide them the best care possible, to be the advocate for them that they need. Okay, so we also have to report medication errors. Those are SIRs. Reactions to medication. What if they're prescribed something new after a doctor's appointment and you start to see that they're having hives, they're having rashes, they're having adverse reactions to the medication? Those are what you need to report to your administrator so that we can write the SIR and that we can take them to the hospital to get evaluated. Okay, because nobody should ever have to have a sustaining period of time where that rash occurs without having the proper administration brought to your administrator's attention. Okay, and then other adverse incidents involving the client. So let's say they're walking from one location to another location in the house and they trip and fall. Well, a trip and fall might not seem like much, but you notice that later in the day their condition changes. Usually they're very active, but because they had a trip and fall where they hit their head, now they start becoming more and more lethargic and get more and more tired. And then by dinner time, they don't want to eat. They want to go to bed at 6 o'clock instead of 8. These are changes in condition that need to be noted in a SIR when you guys are doing an SIR, okay? All of these have to be reported to who? They get reported to your administrator, and right away. Even if your administrator is not on the premises, you still need to do your due diligence to report these incidents as they happen, because we have time frames we have to meet. There's a 24-hour verbal notice that needs to be given to the regional center and to licensing that an event occurred. And then we have 36 to 48 hours to complete the written report. Okay, so we have these time frames. If something happens on a Friday, don't wait till Monday to report it. Do not do that, because as we'll get in trouble for failing to report those protocols, you guys will also receive a corrective course of action, a CCA, and some discipline action will happen because you failed to report things on time. Okay, if you follow the protocol and if you do what's right from the beginning, these kinds of things won't happen. Okay, now let me ask you guys a question that licensing loves to ask all the time. Does anybody on here, can anybody on here tell me what the 5 reporting agencies are? When you have to do an SIR, what are the 5 reporting agencies? Throw out a guess. Who do you think we have to report these SIRs to? All right, let me ask Brenda. Who do you think is one of the reporting agencies we have to report to?
Licensing,
Licensing, that's one of them. Okay. Lixie,
Alta,
yeah, Alta,
Regional center?
because you guys have Alta, so you have licensing
Okay.
and regional center.
Okay.
And then what are the other 3? Definitely law enforcement. Okay, that's a 3rd. Child Protective Services. Okay, that's your 4th. And then the ombudsman. You have to report things to the ombudsman as well. Okay, so those are the 5 reporting agencies: regional center, CPS, law enforcement, licensing, and the ombudsman. You have to know those. You have to know the 5 reporting agencies, because licensing can ask you at any time if you know the protocol for who to report to, and they're going to ask you, what is your hours? What is your time frame for reporting? 24 and 48. Just remember that. 24 and 48. 24 for a vocal notice and 48 for the written. Okay. Now I've had to do incident reports on the weekends. That's just part of the job. Okay, that's the part of the job where you got to get stuff done and get it done the right way, right? And then lastly, who writes the SIR report? Who do you guys think writes the actual report we submit?
The administrator?
Your administrator writes the report that we submit. But let me ask you this: where do we get the information that we're going to add into our SIR for the incident that happened?
their
Their TheraP report. So that is why when you notify us by phone, not through text, don't ever send a text to notify of an incident that requires a high attention to detail. Make a phone call. Okay, because if you just text it, like, let me go back to that example that I had to investigate where the resident was stabbed in the back. The resident sent the staff member sent a text to their administrator, and the text was very vague. All it said was something to the effect of there was a stabbing between resident A and resident B. Resident B was stabbed and there's a lot of blood. And then what should I do? That was the text. That's not adequate. You have to make a phone call. You have to give that information, and then you have to provide that information in your therapy note, because we're going to go through and we're going to check your therapy notes. Okay, we're going to go through the therapy notes to see, okay, if Tony's telling me this happened on his shift, I want to make sure everything's documented, because when I go to write my report, I have to include all the information. Who knows the W's, the 5 W's of information that you need to include in your therapy? The 5 W's.
I remember 5 W's from school.
There you go. What are they?
Where, when, who, wait, maybe I don't remember them all.
Who, what, when,
where, with,
where,
and
and
how,
why.
or
And then
why.
also how. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Okay, so remember the 5 W's and the 1 H. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. That is what we're going to use in your therapy. And then it's also what we use when we write our incident report. Okay. Now, I can guarantee you, anytime an incident report is written and generated and submitted, licensing will be out to investigate. Okay. So it's no problem, guys, if you follow proper protocol. Licensing has their job to do. We have our job to do. So if we do our job correctly and licensing does their job correctly, okay, it's going to be one of these. We investigated, the client is okay, everything was substantiated to be good and good working order, and we're good to go. But if we fail to meet deadlines and protocols and provide proper information, we're not going to be able to submit things, okay? According to Title 22, vendors and long-term healthcare facilities must report occurrences of suspected abuse, suspected neglect, injury requiring medical attention, unplanned hospitalizations, and missing persons if that missing person receives services from the regional center. Okay, this is a licensing requirement. This is Title 22 requirements. We have to report these special incidents. Okay, so the last thing I want to cover, when we see something, we have to do what? We see it, so we have to say it.
Say it.
We have to report it. We see something, we say something. Never, ever, ever question whether or not you're going to be right or wrong. Because like I said, I'd rather you guys blow up Diane's phone about things that you think might be reportable, and then she can reach out to myself. She can reach out to Gina. She can ask us, hey, is this something that I need to do an incident report for? Because this was just reported to me. We'll guide her in the right direction, just like she's going to guide you guys in the right direction. Okay. So if you see something, say something. If you see a wound, okay, if you see a bruise, if you see a cut, we call those unknown origins. So if you're giving a shower to Moses, and then after that shower is over, you observe that he's got a bruise like on his left thigh, that's a bruise of an unknown origin. As long as we report that and we do our body check and we do all the things we're supposed to do, we're going to be okay. But if you fail to say something, if you fail to report it, that's when the heat gets brought on. Okay. We're trying to do our jobs the right way, and doing our jobs the right way means exactly that. It means exactly that we are going to do the right thing by reporting at the right time. Okay. So I want you guys to take this last couple minutes. Give me some examples of things that are reportable incidences for a special incident report. Give me some examples. Just talk about it.
If somebody left the house unexpectedly, just bolted.
Absolutely. An AWOL every time, an elope
AWOL,
from the
that's the
home,
word.
as well as an elope from when you're out in the community on a community outing. Those are both reportable incidences, SIRs, okay? Give me another one. Bruises, cuts, anything that's unknown or known. Because what if you're walking into the house from the garage, you just came back from an outing, and Chris falls, right? And when he falls, he ends up scraping his knee. Okay, it's a little deeper than just a regular cut. It doesn't require a hospitalization, but the fact that it happened, we still have to do an incident report for it. Okay, give me another example. Lixie, give me an example of what we would have to do another incident report for it.
Um, the bruise.
Yeah, the
Bruises.
bruises. Can you guys
Blood.
think of one that involves food?
Especially with holding the kids.
Mhm. What kind of example could we think of that involves food that we would have to write an incident report for?
Um,
An
garage.
allergic reaction.
Allergic reaction for sure. What if they're allergic to shrimp, right? What if they're allergic to shellfish? And we decide to make like a jambalaya, a pasta or something that has that in them. The simple fact that you guys cook it and don't serve it, it still can be allergic. They still can have an allergic reaction if you make their food right next to the food that was already prepared with something they're allergic to, right? Choking. If you have a choking incident that's more involved than they choke, they cough, and they drink some water, you got to do an incident report for that. Okay? Because what if you have to do the Heimlich in the home? And you all should be trained in your CPR and your first aid. Okay, some of you I trained myself. So Heimlich maneuver, if you ever have to use anything like that, it's an incident report. Okay. So definitely, yeah, definitely the food, definitely the bruises. What about if one of your guys gets $20 from the home, right? They're going on an outing. Okay, let's use Lath. Let's say Lath gets $20 from his P&I account because he's going to get to spend his money when you guys take him to the mall. He didn't buy anything, but he comes back to the house and he doesn't have his $20. And he looks at you and he tells you, well, I don't have my $20 because that other kid at the mall stole it from me. You think we would have to do an incident report for that? Absolutely. Where does $20 go? What kid was this that took his money? Okay. Even worse is if he signs out his P&I and then Jennifer, just using her as an example, he signs out his P&I and then Jennifer says, well, go ahead and give me your 20. I'm gonna hold it in my pocket because I know you lose your money sometimes. But she doesn't remind Lath he's got his money, and Jennifer ends up using that $20 at the mall to buy herself something. Alicia notices, but Alicia and Jennifer are really close. So Alicia doesn't want to say anything because she's afraid that might hurt her friendship with Jennifer. Let me tell you something, guys. It's the Wild West out here. Okay, you're not throwing anybody under the bus if you're reporting something that was wrong. My expectation would be that Alicia would tell me, hey, this is what I observed yesterday and this is what I saw. And that's it. You let your administrator take over and do the investigation and do the reporting from there. The bottom line is we have to be on the same page as a team to make sure that when these incident reports that have to get done are done with due diligence behind them. Okay, we cannot let things fall through the cracks. Okay, the more stuff falls through the cracks, the farther we get into that area of licensing being here every day, as they have been the last couple of days. Okay, we don't want to get into those gray areas. We want to get into those areas where we maintain stability and the ability to give our kiddos the best day possible. Okay. So I know we've had a lot of trainings and a lot of sign-in sheets. You guys all need to make sure you sign the roster. Okay, for this training today, it's going to be located in the office with Diane. Make sure you guys get your signatures on all these trainings we had. Today was our SIR training. Yesterday, we did that LIC 610C, that emergency evacuation plan training. And then the day before, we did the psychotropic medications and the MARPs. Okay, all of these trainings are recorded, so I'm going to send the recordings to Diane so that you guys can watch them later and refresh yourselves later. But it's always a pleasure talking to you guys and hanging out with you guys in the home. You know, I know it's you guys see us sometimes and you think bad thoughts, but I guarantee you we're all on the same page. Okay, we want the success and the best for the kiddos that we serve. Okay, and there's just a lot of requirements above you guys that we have to take care of. So let's make it easy for us to take care of those things the right way, okay? If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to Diane, reach out to Gina, and we'll try to guide you guys in the right direction, okay? So again, I appreciate everybody for jumping on today. You guys go be good humans the rest of the day, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Nelson.
Thank you, Nelson.